Hi, I'm Paul Mannion from Mannion Lawyers. We're a law firm that only represents dads in family law matters. So I've been dropping a couple of these videos to help people out that are asking questions on a Facebook page that I'm following, Fathers' Rights Australia, and I can see that there's certainly a lot of good advice coming in there, but I thought I'd try and help as much as I can by offering, legal advice. Now, this is not a trick. I'm not after any subscribers or anything like that. I don't need you to follow or do anything. I'm just trying to answer a couple of the questions that come up. All right. So a couple of questions have come up. A couple of people have asked about mediation and whether it's worthwhile. So 100% mediation is worthwhile. I guess what we've got to consider is what can we do that's in the best interest of the kids to resolve this situation as quickly as possible? And we all know that court is the last thing that we should be doing. So we know that it's the last thing we should be doing because it's very, very costly. It takes a long time, and emotionally and psychologically it's extremely draining. So if we can avoid that, and my advice is always trying to avoid that as much as you can, if we can avoid that, then do whatever it takes. And mediation is the first port of call. So if you go into mediation and go, she's not going to agree to anything, I'm not going to agree to anything, then mediation is going to be a waste of time. But if you go into mediation and you're considering how can we resolve this as amicably as possible, and what's in the best interest of the children or the child. So don't forget, best interest of the child is not what you think is the best interest, not what they think is the best interest. It's about what you both can come up with as the best interest. I always talk about getting a deal that you can live with my clients. So my advice is always the same. If you can get a deal that you can live with, not one that you 100% wanted, but if you can live with it, then take it with both hands, cut your losses and run. Emotionally, financially, and time-wise, you are so much better off. All right. So again, it might not be everything you wanted, but you probably might not get everything you wanted at court 18 months later, and thousands of dollars down the track. So go into mediation with a strong view that you want to come up with a resolution. Right. But I don't want anyone to think that they have to take a deal that they can't live with, because I don't think you should do that. So yes, mediation is definitely a good option. Okay, the next one that comes up a lot, and it's coming up a lot more and more now, is self-repping, being a self-representative, or we call it a self-rep. And there's certainly a place for that, especially now that AI is providing a lot of assistance and helping a lot of fathers draft some letters or draft some affidavits. And I understand why people would want to self-rep because of the costs, and I get that. I'm a family lawyer and I've been doing it for lots of years, and I wouldn't represent myself in family law. I wouldn't represent my family in family law, because the difference is lawyers go into this without the emotional attachment, without the emotional turmoil that's going to perhaps bring you unstuck in the process. So we generally try and suggest people don't self-rep. But if you are going to self-rep and you are going to use AI, then back it up. It's really, really simple. Look what AI have suggested as far as maybe cases or certain sections of the Act, and then look up those sections of the Act yourself. But I haven't had many successful outcomes for people that have struggled through self-repping. I've had people that have started the process, and I'd always suggest that you start the process as a self-rep. You can do that, and then get a lawyer involved once you've got to a mediation point or a conference point where you haven't been able to get a result. Then you can get a lawyer involved. But people get tripped up because of the emotional anguish that's involved in family law, and lawyers don't have that emotional tie. So from my mind, it's always best to get some legal advice, even if you can find some legal advice and not have them represent you, just provide that support and assistance through the process. But it wouldn't be free. However, legal aid is free, and you can always call legal aid and ask for their advice over the phone, and they're able to give that. Okay. The next one, and I'll probably finish on that, is initial applications and affidavits. So people ask, can your initial application be changed? Absolutely, it can be changed. You can put in what you think you want at that time, and then circumstances will change over the course of the case, and you might think what you've initially asked for is not sufficient or maybe excessive, and you can change that. Now, there's a process that lawyers know about how to change the initial application. It's a court document that needs to follow certain rules, and I'm sure you can find that in the court website to how to change an initial application. But you certainly can, and you can also update your affidavits. If things have changed, and I've got a case where we provided an initial affidavit, but between the time of writing that affidavit and going to court, there was some time with the child. And we believe that the court would benefit from knowing about what's happening and how that time is. So we've updated the affidavit. And if that's objected to, you can argue why that's beneficial for the court to know what's actually going on in an updated version. Don't get me wrong, if you can't be expected to update the affidavit, every couple of weeks or regularly. We would expect one maybe updated affidavit, and you can seek leave from the court to provide an updated affidavit as well. Okay, the last thing, I will do one more because costs for final hearings have been mentioned a couple of times, and costs for final hearings, we always say, are exorbitant costs. So we have barristers that assist us, and we acknowledge that they're exorbitant costs, so that's why we try and avoid it. We're always trying to settle a case, and you should always try and settle it. Your initial application, you look at what their affidavit is, and then you try and come up with consent orders. If you do a child impact report, you see what the child impact report says, and then try and come up with consent orders. You go to mediation or conciliation conference through court, try and come up with consent orders. Always try and knock it on the head with consent orders as much as you can. So 3-day hearings, barristers will charge you about $5,000 to $8,000 a day, and that's just for the appearance. Then it's anything from $5,000 to $1,000 an hour to read over documents. And anyone that's seen anyone go to a final hearing, or if you're on your way to a final hearing, the documents are like this. And so a barrister comes on board, they're going to read everything, they're going to prepare, and their prep time is almost as much as their appearance time at hearing. Now, I've used lots of barristers, and barristers that are not so big on their costs, and barristers that are big on their costs. What you're paying for is the experience. That's what you're paying for. And you're paying for reputation. Is it worth it? Well, that's a matter for you guys if it's worth it. I know a guy that was facing some serious allegations and spent a fortune on a barrister. And whether it was the prep for the barrister or whether it was the appearance of the barrister, we don't know. But the 4-day hearing turned into 1-day hearing, which finished by consent. So it was a remarkably worthwhile outcome. Now, his child was very, very young, so we're looking at orders that go for 16 years, maybe 17 years. So it's a investment, I suppose, in his eyes, because it was a successful outcome. But yes, it's expensive, and it can be about $30,000 to $40,000 for the hearing. We generally say that with our clients. We give a cost estimation of up until a point where it has to go to hearing, and it can be about $30,000 to $40,000. So we try and avoid it. There's a small percentage of cases that go all the way to hearing. Generally, a large percentage of cases are resolved by consent. And that's what we're always trying to seek. The justification for consent orders is, and the court will say this as well, a decision that you two make together is far better than a decision that's taken out of your hands and made by someone that's believing they're doing the best for the child. So consent orders are definitely something that should be sought, and if it's through mediation, or if it's through self-repping, or if it's through amending initial applications or amending affidavits, then the grand goal is always going to be try and get consent orders. All right, I hope you guys benefit from this. I hope I'm able to help a couple of people. This is not about following or subscribing or anything like that. I just hope that some of the advice I'm giving is sound, and I hope it helps. All right, guys.